We begin with a vessel heading into the atmosphere of a planet called Carnelion 4. It's travelling through a thick field of debris and appears to have smashed into some of it, causing a portion of the ship to explode. We see the craft descend as two people on the planet look up and say, "Sky gift." There's nothing you could have done to avoid the crash, Master. I've never seen such a dense debris field around a planet. Yes, Anakin. That must be one of two reasons no one comes to this world. Anakin asks what the other reason is, and he tells him to see for himself. They both jump down to reveal that the civilization that exists here has been devastated by some sort of conflict or event. Anakin asks what's happened here, and Obi-Wan says, "War. The people on this planet destroyed themselves many generations ago." Anakin then asks why the Republic allowed such a thing to happen. This world was not part of the Republic. There was nothing the Senate needed. I mean, he's starting to see the flaws within the Republic, which explains his eventual downfall. His turning to the dark side was not due to just a vision of Padme dying. Anakin then says, "And the Jedi? They couldn't do anything to stop this," to which Obi-Wan replies, "The Jedi Order is under the jurisdiction of the Senate. The same was true when this planet was destroyed, and even if we weren't, there are only 10,000 of us to keep the light of peace alive in the galaxy." Essentially reinforcing the idea that they are keepers of the peace, not soldiers. Anakin then asks, "Isn't this world supposed to be dead?" as a burning blimp approaches them. Hey guys, what is up? Niyat here with Film Comics Explained, and in the lead up to the new Star Wars movie and the recent release of Battlefront 2, I wanted to experiment with some of their stories in graphic novel form. Now, I'd read a few Star Wars comics prior to Disney's acquisition of Lucasfilms, and the universe was huge. There were thousands upon thousands of fan-made stories that had surfaced since the creation of the franchise. Some that were a part of the canon, and others that were not. Now, since Disney's acquisition, they essentially wiped the slate clean and said anything that isn't in the Star Wars films, and I believe the TV shows Clone Wars and Rebels, is not canon. Everything else falls under the branch of Star Wars Legends. Under the new title, they have released a few awesome stories like Shattered Empire, which bridges the gap between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. Darth Vader, which explored the repercussions for Vader of having a weaponized artificial planet destroyed on his watch. Well, it's obvious, right? The Emperor is going to be pretty pissed off, to put it mildly. I'll leave links to a few of these stories and this one below. Obi-Wan and Anakin is a 5-issue story arc foreshadowing Anakin's eventual downfall and the influence of Palpatine on his decisions. This is set in between the events of The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. Obi-Wan has been appointed as a Jedi Knight and has taken the young Anakin as his Padawan. What I love about this story is that it's going to show us Anakin's progression to the dark side, as mentioned before, through his frustrations with how the Jedi function. I mean, he's just a child, but he's beginning to find out that things aren't as they once appeared. In his mind, he always saw the Jedi as noble protectors of the galaxy, as his exposure to them was being rescued from Tatooine by a Jedi Knight. However, what he is discovering is that the Jedi function under the will of the Senate.
You're a Jedi Knight, aren't you?
What makes you think that?
I saw your laser sword. Only Jedis carry that kind of weapon.
Perhaps I killed a Jedi and took it from him.
I don't think so. No one can kill a Jedi.
I wish that was so.
We head back to the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, sometime before their crash on Carnelion. We see Anakin training in a lightsaber duel against a droid. We have Mace Windu, Chancellor Palpatine, and Obi-Wan looking on as Palpatine says, "I see the boy has taken interest in the lightsaber, Master Windu," to which the Jedi Master replies, "As always, Chancellor Palpatine, you are a master of understatement." Anakin spots that he is being watched by the three of them and switches the programming on the droid. What we notice is that it immediately changes into a projection of Darth Maul. Mace Windu asks Obi-Wan what the boy is doing, and he explains that Anakin had been asking him about his duel with the Sith on Naboo. Obi-Wan assumed it was just a natural curiosity and told him about it. Also, as his master, he'd want his Padawan to be prepared for everything. However, at no point did Obi-Wan think he would do this. What we notice though is that Palpatine is trying to diffuse their reactions. "Come now, my Jedi friends. A boy of his age, altering a training droid in this way, simply to impress his teachers. I would say that is more than unexpected. I would call it impressive." Initially, it seems as though the droid is too overpowered with its dual lightsabers and aggressive fighting technique, but we can see that Anakin holds his own before eventually striking the droid down. We notice that the other Padawans are watching, and although this was an incredible display, they mock him under their breath and say that he may be good with the lightsaber, but he essentially will not make a good Jedi. The reason for this, as they put it, is due to the fact that he is a slave to his emotions. Anakin hears this, and he immediately uses the Force to take away their lightsabers before turning it on them and asking, "What emotions are you feeling right now?" When I first saw this, I was just like, oh my god, Vader has arrived. Now, the situation is broken up by Obi-Wan, and Anakin apologizes to two Padawans before saying, "I didn't mean to frighten you. You're right. I do need better control of my emotions. Please accept my apology." Palpatine looks down and says, "It seems young Skywalker's training is far from complete." Mace Windu explains that the young boy came to them much later than they would have liked, and Obi-Wan had taken an extremely difficult task when he accepted Anakin as his Padawan. We know that they prefer to induct students at a young age because they accept things for what they are, instead of questioning everything that is told to them. Palpatine tells Windu to send Anakin to him, as he feels he may be able to assist, and we see the Jedi Master telling him that Obi-Wan can deal with it on his own. Palpatine then pulls rank by essentially saying, well, Anakin is a Jedi, and the Jedi are under the Senate's jurisdiction, which is ruled by me. Left without a choice, Windu reluctantly agrees. We return to Carnelion to find a massive air battle taking place. The two Jedi spot a ship about to crash into the mountain, and Obi-Wan asks his Padawan to help him. We see them using the Force to hold the airship in place, and give the two inside enough time to jump ship. We see a woman known as Pran and a young girl land. Pran then immediately pulls out two guns and asks them if they are open or closed. Now, the open and closed are essentially the two warring factions responsible for the decimation of the planet. Anakin replies by saying, "What are you talking about? We're Jedi. We're here because we got a call for help." Pran keeps the gun trained on them as she asks what the hell a Jedi was. They are then immediately besieged by a warring airship that fires on all of them. She explains that they are being shot by the Closed, who are their enemy, as the four of them jump down. She continues on by saying that the Closed will not stop until they finish them off, and Obi-Wan leaps a great distance into the air with tremendous speed. He then hurls the lightsaber at the aircraft, which tears it apart, before using the Force to bring the lightsaber back to him. A survivor jumps out of the ship in an effort to reach the cliff, but does not make the distance. We see him fall before he is rescued by Anakin. We then see Pran and her enemy, a man called Grecker, draw guns on each other. Anakin looks up at Obi-Wan, who gives him permission. We then see him slice through all their guns, but we notice that that doesn't stop them, as they both grab a knife and go to attack each other. Obi-Wan then uses the Force to make them stop fighting, and convinces them that they essentially need to work together to get out of their situation. They all reluctantly agree, and we see them moving as a group. After some time, they are spotted by some creatures which are called corpse leeches. They move towards them, and Obi-Wan uses it as an opportunity to teach Anakin how to use the Force to calm them down. He tells them to focus and feel the Force, but Anakin struggles to gain control. He loses it completely, and in an effort to protect himself, he cuts the creatures down. We then head back to before, where Obi-Wan is trying to teach Anakin to use the Force on a massive creature. Anakin tells him that he is sorry. "I can't find a way to calm it. All I feel is its rage. It wants to get out, to crush and to kill." Obi-Wan tells him that it's okay, as not all Force abilities come easily to everyone, and it's essentially why they must study and learn to perfect their craft. In truth, the anger and rage that Anakin was feeling was just his own. We then head to the subsurface of Coruscant, where Palpatine is organized to use the young Anakin as his Jedi protector on a small mission. Obi-Wan and Mace Windu were not very happy about this, as he's still at a very delicate stage in his training, but they have no say in the matter as Palpatine is Chancellor. Anakin asks him what they're doing down here, as he's been told it's not safe, and Palpatine explains that it's his duty to come down here and see how most people live. The Chancellor takes them through a back entrance to Club Kassakar, a notorious gambling spot in these parts. He advises the young Jedi to keep his hood up, as they would not like to be recognized here. He thanks him for coming, before saying that he envies the Padawans who are training in the Jedi Temple, as they have their entire life decided for them at a young age, insisting that it must simplify things, before saying, "Not like me. My entire life is difficult decisions." Now that is just a sinister joke between Palpatine and us as the reader, as we know his whole life is being geared towards the destruction of the Jedi. I mean, from the blockade on Naboo that would see him appointed as Chancellor, to the organization and construction of the clone army decades before he would have need for them, leading up to Order 66. Palpatine then explains that anything can be purchased here, insisting that lives were bought and sold here every day, before apologizing for not being sensitive about Anakin's roots as a slave. In truth, this was a deliberate ploy by the Chancellor to elicit emotion from Anakin, to get him to behave in a manner unbecoming of a Jedi, and more like a Sith. Anakin asks why the Senate doesn't do anything, and Palpatine explains that this place was actually full of senators. He then brings his attention to one of the senators who is gambling, as he explains that Calandris was a powerful senator, with much sway in the decision making that goes on in the Senate. Unfortunately, he uses this for selfish gain. He's involved in all manner of corrupt practices, like selling his influence, and also gambling away small amounts that he's extorting. He tells Anakin that there are a few like him that know about these practices, but say they are essentially powerless. What he then suggests is that all it would take to bring him down would be for him to lose big, which would reveal to everyone the full scale of his corruption. I mean, that is Palpatine's greatest strength, subtle suggestion. Anakin then uses the Force to make the cube land in an unfavorable position, causing the senator to lose a lot of money. They exit the establishment, and Palpatine asks him if his Jedi abilities allow him to move objects. Anakin tells him that they do. The Chancellor then asks if they might be able to move the cube, and that's the last thing that he says before they move on. They head back to the Chancellor's office, where he asks Anakin if he's happy at the Jedi Temple. Anakin tells him that it's all he's ever wanted, before looking down. Satisfied with the answer, Palpatine tells him that he's in debt to him for helping him during the Naboo crisis, before saying there is always a place for him by his side. After thinking this over, Anakin approaches Obi-Wan and hands him his lightsaber as he says, "I know my training isn't complete. I have more to learn, and I know I could learn some of it from you and the other Jedi, but not all of it. I can feel the galaxy calling to me, Master. I need to answer. I don't want to wait." Obi-Wan is in shock and simply says, "Anakin, I mean, this is the most dangerous time for a Force-sensitive person. Anakin is very strong with the Force, stronger than most his age, even though he's only been training for a fraction of the time the other Padawans have. And there lies the problem. He has an incredible affinity with the Force. He's often controlled by his emotions, and he is asked to leave the Jedi Order. I mean, these are all signs alluding to the fact that he's on the path to becoming a Sith." Obi-Wan reluctantly takes the lightsaber and says, "Very well." Returning back to Carnelion, where Anakin and Obi-Wan have had to deal with a lot of conflict, and were actually separated for some time before they reunited. The Open and Closed have been fighting each other with so much hatred and ferocity. In the meantime, we notice that Anakin and Obi-Wan send out a distress signal. The Jedi soon arrive and break up hostilities between the two warring factions. Anakin asks how Obi-Wan was able to convince the Republic to come give aid, and Obi-Wan tells him that he misled them to believe that there was a high concentration of a rich resource available on the planet, which led them to send the Jedi. Anakin then asks, well, won't they find out that there is nothing here eventually? To which Obi-Wan replies, yes, but it will be some time before that happens, and either way, the Republic will not allow the fighting to start over again. He hands the lightsaber back to Anakin as he says, "I am stronger as part of the Jedi Order than I could ever be alone," citing what they were able to accomplish today as an example. I mean, they had essentially brought peace to a planet that had known nothing but war for generations. He asks Anakin if he wishes to walk the road that lies before him alone, and Anakin says, "No, Master. I wish to walk it as a Jedi, if you will show me the way." And we see that although Anakin has mixed feelings about the Senate and the function of the Jedi within the Senate, he stays because he trusts and believes in Obi-Wan. If you'd like to purchase a copy of the comic in its entirety, I've left links below. I'm really curious to hear what you guys think about this one, so please share that in the comments below. As always, it's been a pleasure. Niyat here with Film Comics Explained. Thanks for stopping by.